Let's move on to Spencer Rattler and South Carolina's offense. What does he need to do against North Carolina's defense? Well, first, let's talk about North Carolina's defense. And if you kept up with college football at all last year, you know that their defense was poor, to say the least. Again, much better than I could have done, but not very good statistically, right? A lot of points were scored against them. They were dead last in passing yards given up in the ACC. They were second to last in rushing yards given up in the ACC, and they were dead last in points per game given up in the ACC with like 31. So they gave up 31 points last year on an average weekly, right? And they gave up a bunch of yards in the air and a bunch of yards on the ground. So if you're a North Carolina fan, it's like, wow, what are we doing here, right? If you are South Carolina, you're thinking, okay, great, we can run, we can pass, we're going to be able to score some points. However, North Carolina does return, I think, 8 starters. A good amount of their production is back, but that's either that could be good, that could be bad, right? Does experience really matter if you want a defense that played that poor? Maybe. I think you definitely have to give the potential that they improved. I don't think you can get worse than last year, so I think improvement's on the way. But regardless how much they improved, regardless if they have stars back, there should still be some good opportunities for Rattler to attack. So let's talk about what Spencer Rattler needs to do to have success. And if they get into a shootout to keep up with Drake May, or depending how this game goes. A lot of times when you think a shootout's going to happen, it ends up being a lower scoring game. But still, it could be definitely a shootout. So with that said, I think the number one key is obvious, and that's something we've talked about before. Any South Carolina fan knows about Rattler. Don't turn the ball over. No turnovers. You don't want to give Drake May any extra opportunities to score, any extra opportunities to get out to a lead, or extra opportunities to come back if they're down. So if you're Rattler, there's no need to force things. No turnovers. That's been Rattler's kind of biggest thing, right? Is just turnovers at not the best times in the game. Now, while he did improve a lot last year, and he showed out against Clemson and Tennessee, had really good games, you're hoping that he can be that version this year. And if you've kept up with South Carolina reports or any of the news, they've talked about the improvements he made. They're really high on him. So if you're a South Carolina fan, you hope that's true as week 1 rolls around. Number 2, this is the last kind of key. Again, just brief, broad keys. And this is obvious again, but I think especially for Rattler, get in a rhythm early. Find ways to get in a rhythm early. That's important for every quarterback, but especially Rattler, because when he's on, right? When he's on fire, it's dime after dime after dime. So you want to set that up. Sometimes it's hard to be on fire off the bat. So if you take a bunch of deep shots and miss, if you take a bunch of deep shots because you think, okay, UNC's defense was poor last year, let's come out swinging. If you take some deep shots, then it's kind of easy to get in a rut if you don't complete that. So my thought is get in a rhythm early. A lot of success last year was when he was in rhythm, in a good groove. So whatever that looks like as offense, whether that's screens, short passes, as people typically say, I don't know. Just get him in a rhythm early, and you're more likely to be in a rhythm and a groove, taking some shots deep later on. Overall takeaway from Rattler, like we mentioned, don't turn the ball over. That's obvious. That could be said for any quarterback in any key, but I think it's especially important in this game against North Carolina. So 1, don't turn the ball over. 2, find ways to get in a rhythm early and allow that to lead you to bigger plays down the road. So overall takeaway from Rattler, if I was talking to him, again, not that he would want any advice from some YouTube guy, I would say play loose. Let it rip. You can still take care of the football by letting it rip. His success last year came when he was letting it rip. His struggles last year, whenever he was being too timid with the ball, trying to aim it, place it, make the perfect throw. You can still take care of the ball and let it rip. So if I'm Rattler, go play loose, let it rip. You're going against a defense that's probably going to give you some favorable matchups, at least if last year tells us anything. So if you're Rattler, play loose, let it rip. You can still take care of the football having that mindset. But North